Hello everyone, today I want to talk about charge and elementary charge. So first of all, let's talk about charge. So charge is seen most of the time as a Q, could be like a small Q, and charge is measured in coulombs. And when our object's charge, it means that like the atom, let me just draw, that does not look like an atom. Well, this will be fine. An atom, right? So like the object has the atom has an excess amount of electrons. So by this, so let's say what you call a charged object, like what defines it is when the protons are access, like it has the access amount of the electrons. What it means in basic words is that the protons and that's what's it called, the atom made out of. I'll just quickly go through that. And electrons. So these three, that's what is made in the atom, like what's made out of. And in basic words, let's just quickly think, like I'll describe each topic. Let's say, so the proton is it has like the atomic number and the atomic mass, and the neutrons are very similar. They also have the atomic mass and then electrons, they can be removed or gained. So in general, let's say it's basically when an object is charged with electrons or a more amount of like atoms than needed, for example. So an example can be, so let's say I have a balloon, right? And the balloon is charged with 4 protons and 4 electrons. So the protons are positive and the electrons are negative. So that will give us 4 protons and then 4 electrons. When we subtract these, we have the what's it called, net force of 0 coulombs. So this is not charged because it's like it's not over 1. However, if we have a balloon and have again 4 protons, but this time we take away 2 electrons, that means that we have 4 protons and 2 electrons, and that gives us the 2 coulombs, because these 2 minus equals 2, so 2 coulombs, and that is charged. However, if we have a balloon and it is 4 protons and this time 6 electrons, so 4 protons, 6 electrons, 4 minus 6 minus 2 coulombs, so that won't, like, it's not more than 0, it's below 0, so this is not charged. This is what we want most of the time, but we still need to understand the other 2. And also what we need to know literally forever, like we need to know protons, guys, they never move. Like, we never move them. They never. We only are able to move their electrons. So for example, because electrons are electricity and electricity can flow. So the electrons, they can only move on a different object to make it charged. So even though most of the time, like we take away from the protons, and like usually if you want a positive answer, you like do, like whatever is bigger, so we didn't like change these to make a positive 2, but we that's just how it works. So remember that. Now let's talk about the term elementary charges. So again, let's go back to what we came from: the proton, neutron, electron. So most of us like think or know, apparently know that it's like protons, they are +1, like their value, neutrons are 0, and then electrons are -1. However, that's not the case. It is right. However, what we're missing is a very key thing. Proton, it's not just like +1, it's a +1e. Neutron, it's a not 0, it's 0e. Electron is not -1, it's a -1e. What is E? You might be thinking. So E is the smallest charge in nature. So E is the like type of charge that's is the most smallest smallest charge in nature. So there's nothing smaller than it, and all charges are represented in E. Like for example, 2E. If that makes like over here, like we have them over here, and E is the amount of charge. For example, the E, like you can even see E on your calculator. E over here we can see. Oh no, that's wrong. Sorry. E equals 1.6 times 10 to the power of 19 coulombs. I just want to quick, like, what's on my calculator? I just want to see 1 second. So, on my calculator, if I write down E equals, okay, the iPad was right that E does, okay, now how does this work? Okay, so what I assume, if I'm right, let's just quickly check my scientific thinking. 1 to the power of 6 times minus 19. Let's just do this. I don't know how to. Okay, well that's a genius answer, isn't it? Okay, I guess my idea is that this is equal to this. However, I'm not really sure. But yes, and another thing to know is that E cannot be a fraction. Literally cannot, never. Literally no. I'll make it big for you. No fractions. No fraction of E allowed. So you can't have 1 over 2E. That is a big no. E can only be with full numbers. Yes, 0 is not technically a full number, however, it is. So yeah, and if we take that information and we go back to the, again we go to the proton, I'll just make it short this time, proton, neutron, and electron. So remember, you don't confuse these two. This is an E. This negative near this E makes it an electron. So don't get these two confused. So the proton +1, right? What this +1 means, I mean, that's kind of logical. However, it means the +1 times the value of E, which is 1/6 times 10 negative 50, and then coulombs, which equals to this. I don't want to write it down, guys. You know it. 1 times anything equals the same number they times it by. Neutrons equal to 0E, the same thing, common sense. This times 0 equals 0, and then -1, like again, times by the value. I'll make a different color. Times by the value, guys. It gives the same exact number, however, just in a negative format. So what from that we know that that the protons and electrons, they are the same charge, like the same value, just opposite signs. So op signs. And quickly with the balloons, so when I did kind of a small mistake. So let's say right, we have the same balloons like the other two. So this one was no, this was just 2 coulombs, and this was -2. This is still a charge, it's just negatively charged. This one's positively charged. So they're both charged now, however, just with different signs. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Goodbye.